Right there, you're on. All right, I suppose we could go ahead and get started tonight. Thank you. That's all right. We'll call the meeting to order tonight. It's good to see everybody out in the cold weather. Why don't we go ahead and we'll do the township roll call as we go through, and then we'll go through and set the minutes from the prior meeting. So, I'll refer to you for the roll call.
Yes, Brenda is represented.
Lockhart.
That's right. All right, acceptance of prior minutes. We have a volunteer to read the prior minutes off to us today. I suppose. Wow. Why don't we look over the minutes? I think that might be keep people from really dozing some of the reasons. So we'll give it a few minutes. you get a chance to look it over? Any objection to the minutes? Any additions? Okay, we can go ahead and press on. Any amended modifications or subjects that anybody would like to add tonight?
Spring Creek does have fishing,
Okay.
so is the Lockhart Swamp. And that's from the game line.
Why don't we go ahead, we can start with our individual committee reports that we put together for this last 4 weeks. Let's go ahead and we'll start with Lockhart.
I don't have too much to report on, other than Gary Johansson called me a couple times. That Roger Turpus has been in and working on his building permit and whatever he has to do to get his hog operation in Lockhart Township. He was told by Gary Johansson to contact the township too, but he doesn't seem to want to talk to us, so it's supposed to be, we're real good friends. The other thing that I did notice in here, you were concerned about how close Roger Turpus's operation was to the Lockhart Swamp or the Lockhart, you know. I also got right across the road is the inlet to the Lockhart flood storage project that I have on my property, which is right across the road. So that would be a concern. If that affects the Lockhart Swamp, it will also affect the Lockhart flood storage project and also wildlife project we have there. Nothing else to report.
Thank you.
I talked to my friend down there in Sac County. I went to school with, Randy Newman. He's a senior, knows him well. And two gals that had lawsuits against that poultry farm down there, went down the cities, took it to our court, and they did win. Just like on that issue.
Any other more information for
Yeah.
Spring Creek?
I bet I typed in the email on Orly, Steve?
Yeah.
One?
Okay, whatever you say.
But, I'm intimate with the golf course, so, no, they're still on board.
No, it just means that you feel seeking.
Actually, they appealed to the city.
I'm still looking into the long-term, health effects of chronic hydrogen sulfide exposure, but I don't have any more, anything else to present this month, probably not next month. And that I don't think it's going to represent too much.
No, because I've been gone and like you said.
We just don't have anything more to present, unfortunately.
Strand?
I contacted Molly Costin at the meeting. She forwarded me this information from papers, so yes, I'm kind of going off of that.
Sundahl?
Obviously, I've been busy again. I know that Mr. Fitzsimmons is here, and he's probably gonna wanna have some say in this, so I invite you to start. First off, you're probably, aware of this guy, and I would pass these around, if anyone wants to take them. this one, I think everybody should just kind of read it, there's, it brings up quite a few points. I'll save everybody, because I started with, this is the first report that I pulled up this month, and then I got to way more, so the second page, you can see I highlighted mostly everything. I would say that I enjoyed reading everything by him. And the second one, the real economics of factory livestock. I thought was great, because it did say that, I'll just read off a few points here, it says, goals to defend these factory-like operations typically base their positions on short-run economic considerations. And also, also on page 5, under the some real economics. It says, if there is a penny of profit to be made by turning farm, feedlots, and factories, the agribusiness corporations will do it. They will do it even if the benefits to consumers are negligible and the damage to rural communities is great. If there are a handful of jobs and a few dollars in tax revenue to be gained, some desperate rural community will go for them. I hate to think of Norman County as desperate, but even if far more farmers elsewhere are forced out of business and tax revenues eventually fall short of other costs to the community. We skip down a little bit more and it says, like, corporate profits should not be allowed to take precedent over the lives of people. The future of rural communities should not be sacrificed to satisfy corporate greed. The natural environment should not be sold to the highest bidders, who invariably are its biggest exploiter. True economics does not demand that profits take priority over the earth and its people. I have several others here, but maybe we can save them for another night. I will read this other one by the same author. Just a short paragraph here that says, the promoters of CAPOs tend to target communities that are desperate for economic development, although they may later branch out into the surrounding areas. Local leaders are told that the CAPO will add to local employment and the local tax base. The effects of increased local spending for buildings, equipment, feed, and feeder livestock are supposed to multiply as they ripple throughout the community, resulting in additional expenditures for groceries, clothes, clothing, automobiles, healthcare, and other consumer necessities. Increased property tax collections will then pay for better local schools, roads, and other public services. The promoters claim that the CAPOs are a natural result of our free market economy. If they don't locate here, they will just locate somewhere else. Local farmers will be denied an opportunity to succeed, and the local community will be left without an agricultural economy. I think we've probably heard that before. And a little further down, just one more little quote here. Virtually every study done on the subject in the last 20 years has confirmed the inevitable negative community impacts of CAPOs suggested by earlier studies. The research had consistently shown that both the social and economic quality of life is better in communities characterized by small, diversified family farms. So, if anyone wants to read any of these, I've got a few here. Otherwise, if you want to give me your email addresses, I'd be glad to forward the links on that stuff. I have a few more reports. This is a great one done by the College of Colorado. It says data it goes on to name several studies, and I would be glad to forward this to everyone too. But in short, it says data in studies show that communities with heavy hog concentration suffered larger population losses than those with conventional hog operations. Says they tend to depress value of nearby homes and real estate. Based on the averages of collected data, loss of land values within 3 miles of a CAFO would be approximately 2.68 million US. Yeah, this goes on and on. I don't think we need to go very much all this stuff. This study, you might be familiar with it. It was done between Ohio State University and UAB. Have you read this one?
I've read a lot of them, but it's far away.
This one in particular, has a study that said that, 57% of their studies found largely detrimental impacts on communities. And this is, it also says few positive effects of industrialized farming were found across all studies that they reviewed, which were 51 studies. And in this study, they list a few of the risks to communities that they found. Socioeconomic well-being, lower relative incomes for certain segments of the community, greater income inequality, greater poverty, higher unemployment rates, lower total community employment generated. Under social fabric, they found decline in population size, where family farms are replaced by industrialized farms, smaller populations is seen by industrial farms relative to family farms. Social class structure becomes poorer, increases in crime rates and civil suits, increased general stress, social, psychological problems. Swine CAFOs associated with areas having greater social vulnerability, high poverty, and minority populations, greater childbearing amongst teenagers, deterioration of neighborly relations, civic participation, deterioration in community organizations, less involvement in social life, less democratic political decision-making, the public becomes less involved as outside agribusiness interests increase control over local decision-making, fewer or poorer quality public services and fewer churches, retail trade is decreased and fewer, less diverse retail firms, reduced enjoyment of property, deterioration of landscape, odor in communities with CAFOs. Neighbors of CAFOs report upper respiratory, digestive tract disorders, and eye problems. Residences closest to hog CAFOs experience declining values relative to those more distant. Ecosystem strains, including depletion of water and other energy resources. And environmental consequences include increase in safe drinking water act violations, air quality problems, and increased risks of nutrient overloads in soils. Which all of these are backed by the studies. They're all listed with dates.
Do we have that sheet of paper here?
No, because honestly, if I was gonna make copies of all of this, I probably wouldn't be able to eat this month.
Could you get me a copy of what you just read?
Yep.
I'll pick it up from you at the store.
Sure. And this, I guess, is just backing up basically everything I've read now and last month. This was a study done by Duke University. It basically says all the same stuff and has some disgusting pictures. And, another point that I don't think has been brought up yet, and this was a study done by UC Davis, is the worker health and safety in CAFOs. A couple quotes, I guess I'll just read off quick. Although the work in CAFOs has not been reported to have introduced new disease or injury outcomes in workers, one can anticipate that the concentration of exposures and tasks enhance the probability of health problems. There's kind of a graph that shows the demographics of there. I Another thing, I know we talked about the air quality in there and everything else, something I guess I didn't realize until this report was there is, an increased occupational noise burden. It's only recently been studied in detail, but it did say that in, several different confinement facilities, you know, ranging across different animal breeds, I guess, that the assessments of workers exceeded the, recommended exposure limit. And when unprotected, this does put workers at increased risk of developing noise-induced hearing loss. Also that 86% of dairy workers and 78% of hog workers do report at least one musculoskeletal disorder in the previous 12 months, which includes pain in the upper extremities, especially the shoulders and lower back, with short stature, repetitive work, working in awkward positions, being exposed to dust as risk factors for MSE. And it does say that a case control study found much increased risk of osteoarthritis. It also goes on to talk about air pollutants, which we've already talked about many times. And they have found 150 potential toxic gases. And, I don't know, it goes on and on. I don't know if we really sleep, so it's all here.
And I know you were looking at some other more local type stuff.
Yep, I talked to Sean Ball out of the Norman County USDA office out of King Valley here. And she said she was gonna come tonight and then later find come. She said if we had any questions about the program, any of the programs that NRCS or the SWCD, which would be the National Resources Conservation Service, or the Soil and Water Conservation District, that program that they have available. She said she would answer any questions if you get them to her in writing. And off of there. And then also the last meeting that I was at, this last one, I guess, but the new hydraulic, is that how you say it, DNR, the water guy. He's brand new up there, started last month, and he said like he would speak on a little bit about the project on any questions on the water and all that was all. He also said that they're not the regulatory board on the water, that would be NPCA on that. So you know, if you have questions for you, try to answer them and find their answers. So as far as the regulatory board.
Tim, what is his name? Is there a phone number or?
No, I can do that. He's out of the Detroit Lakes office.
Oh, that's some information I'd like to send him to kind of review and stuff. I went over something similar last month.
Did that ever be that Schroeder? Yeah.
I think it's,
Jerry Schroeder.
Scott Schroeder is from MPCA, but I don't know the name of the new hydrologist either. He was just introduced, so
yeah.
you'd have to call the DNR office and they would connect you. But
I know I wrote it down someplace.
Well, as for myself, as for myself, I kind of took the edge of what we were talking about last week and putting together, starting looking at, kind of piecing together ordinances and seeing what, areas we wanted to target. I met with a fellow professor who, as well as myself, were both licensed at the federal level to teach and federal regulations and whatnot. So right now, we're going through and looking at some legal definitions, some wording of already established ordinances to see if we can keep the basic structure within what we have, because we have some things to go on, a little bit of a foundation. And so we've been putting together definitive or definition type things to where we're putting together structures and areas that we are looking at target ordinances. So that's what I spent my spare time on, getting with him and sitting down and looking at, what would be the most practical, solution, trying to put these ordinances together that we want to propose.
At the township level.
At a township level, absolutely. And he has had some experience in the past, with working in the capital. That's why I grabbed a hold of him. He was like, I said, are you kidding me? You have, this kind of exposure. He says, yeah, let's sit down and have coffee and let's go through this. So, good news on that. We're putting that together, we're piecing that together, and hopefully, next time we can maybe present some of the, things to the townships, the target areas that we were looking at for that. I was very encouraged by it. It's nice when you finally get down to sit down, you look at all this and you say, okay, yeah, we need to change it. And, to start to piece that together is quite nice. So that's where we're at. So. Welcome.
I guess
The end of the symbol.
I guess I just have kind of a question for Paul there about, we in this area generally don't have any animal farms in the world. And, what have you done as far as when you have neighbors and you have issues, whether it be smell or whatever, what have you done to clear things up?
Well,
I mean,
so I'll put it out. The only farm that we've ever had with an issue was, Ohio Service. When David, so, probably the 200 feet off that we have with those, never had a complaint. But I said this before, I think and I need to extend that invitation again, or, when I hear the economic, that it doesn't cause economic, so our payroll for the farms that we manage in 2014, the gross payroll was, we had $6 million. So we added another $1.5 million in benefits. That's within a 30-mile radius of Maple.
How many employees?
260. It also added, for every sow you put on the ground, it adds about another $11 to $15 in outside every year. So, people that are the contractors, electricians, whatever that is, that doesn't have anything to do with feed, just outside services that come in and perform for it. So I mean, those are real numbers, and I guess my frustration here is that, so I live and work out of a town of 2,500. Nobody's called the mayor. This seems fast. Nobody's called the mayor of the little town in which I grew up in 500. Nobody's talked to any of the counties down there that have 5-star, that instead we still go to the internet and pull stuff off instead of talking to people that are living.
But Paul, where you're from is normal. Like that's the norm, so,
No,
and also this is not about your business. It's about all Gators. It's not about your business.
It's not about responsibility.
right, but I would say that, but what you're doing is as you read off those lines, I'll tell you, if I ever, if I would go to a website and, it comes from
That actually,
farm friendly.
no, all of these were printed off of, University of Missouri
Yeah, but
website.
do you see who funded it?
It says nothing, it says,
No, on the last page.
web.missouri.edu.
No, on the last page, it tells you who funded it, okay? So, but I understand what you're going through, I'm just wondering why nobody checks where these things go on every day. I mean, your fear is that all those things that are said in there happen, but nobody's checked in with the people where that goes on every day that doesn't
Well, what
happen.
about like UC Davis, Duke, UND, Ohio
Yeah.
State University?
I could, you want me
There's
to,
not.
I mean, I could stack them up higher than that.
Oh, well, I
and
know,
show the other
because
side.
I have to pick and choose.
Yes,
And I'm trying to find stuff that's not crazy talk. I'm finding stuff that's legit. And I don't want,
but here again, nope, you need to, I've extended the invitation, you need to come down.
why don't you get me information that says exactly, like, I wanna see university studies from you that say that this is gonna be great for our economy. Can you get me that?
I just gave
Can
you
you
not
give
a
that?
university study, I gave you,
I don't wanna hear from hearsay, I wanna see a study, because that's what we're doing here, is we're presenting studies that show.
right,
Like, I don't wanna hear someone's opinion, I don't wanna hear, obviously, yeah, a mayor would probably, I don't know who's getting fertilizer down there. I don't know who's making business off what, I don't know, I wanna see a study that's completely out in the open, nobody is getting paid from this person or the other, and I wanna see some facts.
yeah.
If you can
I mean,
bring me
that's-
some facts, we
you know,
will gladly read it out loud here. We will all sit and think about it, I'll make copies, I'll pass it around, everything will be great, but I can't find any studies that show that. I can't find anything.
I'll give them to you.
Okay, do it,
I'll send it.
but make sure that they're legit. Like, I don't want
That
something from
legit?
the corporate, I would say that UC Davis and Duke and University of North Dakota, I would call them legit schools. I mean, wouldn't you?
I would say that
I actually
everything
don't
has a
No, I'm a
twist.
professor there.
I had found something actually from University of Minnesota, out of, where was it that you graduated from?
University of Minnesota.
Uh, yeah, and I actually found 2 different reports out of there by doctors. So I'm just, I didn't bring them because I thought that was maybe getting bloated out a little bit.
No, that's fine, I'll get, I just,
University studies that show what you're saying is completely true.
so,
That's what I was.
You are correct, we should go down there,
You
we
need
should
to
talk
come
to the
down.
people. Absolutely. It's been a
I can't
relatively
say
short
it.
period of time what we're doing here, all on a volunteer basis.
but, and I'll say it
And
again.
we all have lives.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll get there,
It's a lot,
we'll get there.
but everything you're doing is not, it doesn't affect, I could walk out of here tonight and be done, but what you're gonna do is affect every other farmer in this.
No,
Well, yes.
no,
They've been doing just fine.
no.
I wanna hear it, no, explain it, I'd like to hear it, because I'm trying to put together ordinances that
Yeah, but
fair
if
and balanced
you
for
got
everybody.
the guy down the road here that has, when you got something that over 300 animal units, and he has 250 cow calf herd, and he wants to go to 500, all of a sudden what you're doing will affect the growth of even the local guys here that can do it.
Well,
We're studying, that's what we're
Yeah.
trying to figure out where
So,
we're
But
at.
his place isn't here.
yes, it is.
If you're talking about the one down on Third.
No, I'm not talking about anybody, I'm just hypothetical.
But also those people are gonna be grandfathered in.
Hmm?
This is a temporary moratorium, this isn't something.
There isn't anybody over 300 animals.
Yeah,
There's
anyone
no
that, yeah.
grandfather clause.
I haven't heard any about grandfathering and on what I heard.
It's not being discussed on, but.
I mean, that
maybe
would-
not,
yeah.
You know,
That
I
would
know,
be
I know our committee in making sure
legitimate.
that we're taking all aspects of every feedlot and making sure that it's not detrimental to the family farm.
my farm, what you think it needs, and what government thinks it needs, are two different things.
Well, I'm sure it is, but I'm just saying it's all, that's what we're trying to figure out, is we're doing the definitions, we're looking at the statutes, we're looking at everything, and saying, okay, what's our, where we stand?
Yeah, that's been our big thing that we've been doing too, is looking at, what is considered, definition wise, it's a law, what do people consider under the law of these things? I'm not a lawyer, but like I said, I'm an expert in federal regulations and how they operate. And I'm licensed to teach it, at the federal level. So looking at the structure of that and making sure that it's done in a way that's every avenue's looked at, to where it's not gonna be prejudiced in any way, shape, or form, but it's gonna be straight up.
It's gonna take the next County Road 5, we're gonna pay that.
No.
Because none, because the highway department, none of the county, so that's just,
Pay for it.
and County Road 5 didn't pay. And with all the trucks coming in, such and such, that's.
Do you know what the tax revenue is for the Osage site?
$22,000 a year.
22,000 a year on $6 million.
How come they get taxes? They only paid $964.
They're down on Friday. That's, so when that was quoted, they weren't even in operation.
What does it take, a 10 road to moving feed in?
Well, a paved road will keep that road from getting all tore up, like where Tim lives there. It's on the way there, that'd be the shortest route, and the safer route, because if you go on 7, that is very narrow. And what he quoted me is it'd be between $300,000 and $400,000 per mile. Okay,
Is the 5-ton road now, the county road today?
all gravel roads are 5 ton. That the Department of Transportation, during harvest is usually only lasts 2 weeks, and it's in the dry season. Now you're talking about putting in business, all right, where we're gonna be dealing with the wet situation and everything else, not just dry conditions. In which case that road, Tim can verify it, if it goes to shit in a handbag, once it's wet.
And again, the main travel would be, like in the system, would be when you're building it, there'd be a lot of concrete and stuff that would be getting out.
Yeah.
Then after that, it would be like a harvest season, after that would be routine maintenance.
Well, the trucks would be going in there weekly because they have to bring feed in and stuff like that, right?
6 trucks a week.
6 trucks a week.
What was your quote for Martin? What were you quoted for that?
Between 300,000 and 400,000 on County Road 5. County Road 7 would be between 400,000 and 600,000.
I actually, there is this study here that,
That's just what Norman County,
because this study actually said quite a bit less, but it's also done in a different city. It's still a lot of money.
yeah,
Like you from that,
they said that there would be, they wouldn't even entertain
2 miles from the 32 to that system, with that, 2 miles, that's counted on, that counts as 20,000.
Yeah.
It'd be 2 miles.
Well, if they're gonna your house?
Dollars costs too much. $22 a year, nothing. They're all local. 6 trucks a week is terrible. Usually township roads, we got living logging trucks, but that would have been a lot more than 6 trucks a week.
Well, County Road 5's got some springs in the center of it, you know, you're crossing the creek there, and there is a spring. Every year, it's always wet right in that area.
There's some problem with some spots, that 21.5 from 32 to our township line, usually stays pretty good. I mean, at the end of it is heavy traffic, nothing.
Well, I know my pickup can reach some pretty deep ruts. I don't know. I'll just go with what DNR told me, and what the game warden told me. Eventually, in time, that they fertilize on the field will end up in the aquifer over a period of time.
So that's any fertilizer.
No,
That's any fertilizer, hog waste, whatever. And they also suggested that everybody take tap water, take it in, get it analyzed. If you live alongside Spring Creek, take a sample of that, take it in, get it analyzed. If this does go through, then you have something that, if something changes, or you got something to back up on the spot.
I think that's a great point. I think we should continue to look at road maintenance, liability, responsibility, and, you know, maybe even consider a maintenance tax, you know, put on owner-operator of, you know, feedlots that, you know, bring in and need that extra, you know, infrastructure support. You know, so maybe that's something we need to look at and address for further meetings, for sure, because clearly it's been an issue on the last few meetings, and nobody likes the word tax. But I personally don't believe that should come out of the, you know, the townships or the people here should not be punished with an extra tax, so that,
Well,
that's
we're
something.
not getting anything out of it
Well,
personally.
I don't know if that's a super accurate statement.
We're not
We
getting,
may not, it's open for debate for sure, but once
Well-
again, I think that's just an area that definitely is very well put, you put it very well, and something that needs to be looked at, and it needs to be something to where, you know, what's the cost gonna be, what's it gonna, you know, cost the townships, and go from there, see if it's even gonna be economically feasible.
it's just like the value of the houses going down, you know? I mean, everybody's put work into their homes, you know? Why should we lose the money that we put into it?
Right.
I mean, we're not getting nothing back from the hog facility, you know,
Well,
other
it's
than
not, once again, I wanna emphasize, and Amanda said this too, this is not a hog facility thing. We have Mr. Fitzsimmons here, and he's here, you know, to give us, you know, his information and present, but once again, this isn't about hog operations. I wanna keep emphasizing that.
Right.
Every single meeting I come to, I hear that, and it drives me crazy. And forgive me for getting a little upset, it's been a long day for me. But, you know, let's try to keep focused on, you know, what is gonna be the future of what we're gonna do in our townships, you know?
I would say it's very common that during construction phase that we bond the road to get it back into repair. So that's very common. Because the majority of the vehicles are during that construction phase, like cement trucks sometimes. But, you know, after that, it's pretty much normal traffic. A truck a day is not people have gone into corn more, I think you're on your road deal, I think you're going up the wrong deal, because that's, then what we gonna do about the guys raising corn now, instead of raising beans or wheat, we putting a lot more loads onto that same road, and what traffic he's talking about, isn't anything different than what's just changed in our economy, because we've gone from getting into more corn and wheat, and our roads are getting, you're going on the wrong deal there.
Higher yield,
Pardon me?
higher yield.
Yeah, higher yields, you can have more bushels, you gotta, it's more truck load, more everything, but that's,
That's a very valid point, so to be considered, when looking into it, how's it gonna affect the guy that's already working? Or is it gonna affect him, or is that even fair? That turns out to be prejudice, towards just feedlot operators, So, that's a great point.
we have a wet fall and beef trucks gotta come out. We get some big car roads too.
Give the corn or leave it.
Yeah. It just depends on the season.
Doesn't the county have something in place on that, that if the farmer destroys the road, that he has to pay for bringing it back?
Yeah, we've done to a couple of farmers that actually went over beyond what the normal usage, and we have charged them for the extra. But I mean, that was, we don't, normal use even during a wet harvest, we realized that we've gotta be out, But this was, we had two farmers that went over extreme. We did charge them back, but normal season work, it's wet. I know we got some roads over that way, like, I bet you there's 100 trucks that go in within a couple weeks over these roads. And loaded trucks like 80,000 pounds plus. And, most of the time, you can see some damage, but work on them. And then also that, you got